Hello, my beautiful chaos makers. You monsters in disguise, you unshakable storms in human skin, you who've been called too much, too intense, too loud, too broken, or, my personal favorite, a bit of a problem. Yeah, you. I'm talking to the ones they watch with side eyes in quiet rooms, to the ones who show up and instantly shift the temperature like a damn tectonic plate just cracked, to the ones who've been underestimated, counted out, talked down to, played small, until the day you didn't stay down, and suddenly the whole damn system panicked. Hey, yo, what the fuck was that? They mobilized a whole fucking country's worth of troops just to slow you down? That's not strategy, that's fear with a capital F. Let that sink in. They didn't send a squad, they didn't dispatch some special unit. They summoned an entire damn nation's force. Like you're the apocalypse itself. Not a person, not a problem, but a force of nature that bends reality and terrifies the fragile little power structures they hide behind. Because you, my friend, you don't just walk into rooms, you walk in and rewrite the script. You represent something they can't predict, something they can't tame. You are chaos to their control, a glitch in their matrix, the fucking Joker to their fake-ass Gotham. They built fences around your potential. Try to file your edges down to manageable. Try to shove your brilliance into a box labeled normal. But they forgot one thing. You weren't built for normal. You were built to make history blink. You were built to kick down doors they swore were locked. You were built to disrupt timelines, shake realities, and fuck up every quiet little plan they thought was safe. Understand this, people don't go to DEFCON 1 over someone they don't see as a threat. You don't deploy a nation's might for someone insignificant. Nah. You do that when you see a damn reckoning walking toward you. And that's what you are. You're not just potential. You're kinetic. You're not waiting for permission. You're already at the gate, and they hear your footsteps like war drums. You remind them of everything they're not, every risk they were too scared to take, every fire they let burn out. So yeah, they fear you, and rightfully so. But here's the twist. That fear, that panic, that full-blown military response, use it. Drink it like gasoline. Let it burn through every doubt they ever tried to sow into you. They think you're too dark? Good. Darkness births stars. They think you're too intense? Good. Intensity breaks cages. They think you're a threat? Fantastic. Threats change destinies. Be the villain in their story, if it means being the hero in your own. Be the nightmare they see when they close their eyes. Because you refuse to stay quiet, to shrink, to behave. You didn't come here to play by the rules. You came to flip the damn board. Every insult, every "you'll never make it," every backhanded compliment, every dismissal, every ghosted reply, every door slammed in your face. They weren't wounds, they were weights, forged for you to snap. Chains made to hear the sound of their own destruction, and you're the one doing the breaking, piece by piece, step by step. They thought they were burying you, but you were just building pressure. Now you're rising, like magma with a memory. Here's the deepest truth, and this one might hurt a little. They already lost the second they feared you. Because once someone fears you, they start playing defense. They watch you, they mirror you, they react to you. You control the energy now. You own the damn narrative. You're not the underdog, you're the gravity shift. And they feel it in their spine. Every time you speak, every time you rise, every time you don't quit. So here's your moment. You've been handed the greatest compliment the world gives the dangerous: opposition. You've got a nation's worth of weight against you. That's 'cause you're that motherfucker. The one who turns battlegrounds into stages. The one who bends destiny over the edge and makes it beg for a name. They mobilized a whole country because they know what's coming. You. And no army, no institution, no fake-ass authority can stop a soul who's already been through hell and came back laughing. Let them panic. Let them run the numbers. Let them launch their campaigns. Let them aim everything they got at you. Because you're not here to survive. You're here to conquer. What it ain't even about proving shit no more. You already proved it the moment they started losing sleep at the thought of you making another move. You already proved it when whispers turned to strategy meetings, and strategy meetings turned into full-on deployment, like your name was a bomb about to drop. You already proved it when people who never said your name before started watching your every step, like it was gospel and threat wrapped in one. The second they scrambled to respond to you. That's when the shift happened. That's when you became the storm they swore they could predict, until it started ripping their safe little structures out the ground. Because people don't build walls around things they're not afraid of. They don't study shadows unless they're terrified of what's moving in them. And they sure as hell don't organize an entire national-level response for somebody who's just talking big. You ain't noise, you're pressure, your presence. You're that undeniable energy they can't suppress, can't mold, and sure as hell can't copy. And you got 'em shook because they know deep down you're the walking reminder of what they could have been. If they had the guts to burn the blueprint and build from scars like you did. You bled for this. You crawled through the nights where even your own reflection didn't recognize you. You sat with the silence long enough to hear your real name in it. Not the one they gave you, not the one they tried to reduce you to. The one that echoes when you speak truth in rooms built on lies. They keep saying, you're too much, too angry, too loud, too focused, too real. Good. Let them say it, because every too much they throw at you is a confession. Every "you've changed" is a signal flare. Every "you're going too far" is proof they're not willing to go at all. You're not reckless. You're done negotiating your potential with people who still think fitting in is survival. You've spent years shrinking, bending, breaking your own spine to make others comfortable. And for what? For approval from people who wouldn't clap for you unless you were bleeding. For smiles from folks who secretly hope you stay stuck, just so they don't have to face their own reflection? Not anymore. You're walking like someone who knows what they cost now. You've stared into the abyss and cracked a grin back at it. You've buried the version of you that begged for crumbs and came back craving nothing but thrones. And they hate that. They hate that you're finally taking up space without apology. That you're no longer asking, is this okay? That you're done explaining why your existence is disruptive. They hate that you're not just walking in rooms. You're owning them like you paid for the floor with your pain. Because you did. Every battle they never saw, every panic attack dressed up as silence, every effed up night where the only thing that kept you alive was spite and Spotify at 3 a.m. They didn't see that. But they're damn sure seeing what rose from it now. And no matter how much armor they wear, how many titles they hide behind, how many masks they stack on top of each other just to look unbothered, they can't unsee you now. You're in the atmosphere, in the conversations they swore you'd never be part of, in the rooms you weren't invited to but walked into anyway, dripping in audacity and breathing like destiny owes you interest. They keep calling it too far. But you call it arrival. and you're only just warming up, because comfort was never the goal. You didn't come this far to blend in like background noise on someone else's highlight reel. You didn't bleed just to sit politely in the audience while people who never carried your weight try to hold the mic like they earned it. You are the mic. You are the stage. You're the whole goddamn earthquake they'll try to rebrand as unexpected turbulence, just to soften the blow to their fragile little egos. You walk different when you've been dragged. Talk different when silence was your only witness. Move different when you had to learn how to resurrect yourself with no applause, no lifeline, and nothing but the sound of your own breath reminding you. We ain't done yet. They felt that. That's why they flinch when you speak. Because there's weight behind your words, and it ain't theory, it's history. They can smell the war on you, the fire, the nights you didn't just survive. You studied in. You walked through breakdowns like boot camps, broke cycles like bones, rewired your mind like you were the damn architect of your own rebirth. You didn't wake up like this. You built this. Every scar a blueprint, every failure a data point, every L a stepping stone toward the version of you that can't be unmade. And what really eats at them, what really keeps them up when your name slips into the room, is that you never needed their map. They did everything they could to keep you off course, fed you lies dressed as love, gave you advice soaked in sabotage, clapped when you played small, disappeared when you dared to stretch. But you kept going. Wrong turns, dead ends, no GPS, just gut and grit. And you still showed up with blood in your teeth and vision in your eyes. You weren't chasing their approval. You were chasing freedom, the kind that costs everything fake in you, the kind that makes comfort look like a coffin, the kind that turns heads when you walk in. Not because you're flashy, but because your energy walks 10 feet ahead of you and clears the path. And no matter how hard they try to dress it up in politics, or professionalism, or passive-aggressive bullshit wrapped in fake concern, they're not scared of what you might do. They're terrified of what you already are, unfiltered, unshaken, unbothered by their fear. Because you finally realized it's not your job to make them comfortable with your light. You ain't too much. They're too used to dim, and when you stop shrinking, they gotta start facing the shadows they've been hiding behind. You become the mirror, the reminder, the living, breathing what if that haunts every coward who settled, and that's why they treat you like a problem. Because they don't know how to digest someone who doesn't need permission to be powerful. You make their watered-down narratives taste like lies. You make their just be realistic advice sound like chains. You make their quiet little comfort zones feel like cages. Because you already broke out and you ain't looking back. You built your name from the dirt up, stitched it from every hell no they handed you, branded it into the air with every breath you refused to waste on convincing people who were never gonna get it anyway. You're not explaining your value anymore. You're living it, loud, raw, unapologetic. And the louder you live, the harder they scramble to contain what was never theirs to manage in the first place. And they start reaching for labels when they can't reach your level. Too intense, too arrogant, too aggressive, too ambitious, which is code for you make me uncomfortable in my mediocrity, which is code for I can't manipulate someone who actually knows who the fuck they are. They don't want real. They want quiet. They don't want power. They want predictability. But you cracked that formula. You stopped asking for handouts and started taking the stairs no one even tells you about. You broke through ceilings they swore were just the way it is. And every time you walk in with that look, that I don't need to prove shit, but I could burn this down if I felt like it, look, they feel it in their chest like a skipped heartbeat. You didn't just become better, you became undeniable. You turned pain into presence, turned doubt into dominance, turned every red flag into a cape. They threw dirt, and you planted a forest. And they can't stand that you didn't fold when it would have been easy to. You were supposed to break. That's the part they don't say out loud. They were counting on your silence. They were rooting for your burnout, clapping for your grind, while hoping it would eat you alive. But you didn't just survive it. You used it. Used the sleepless nights, the betrayals, the ghosting, the fake love, the backhanded compliments, the rejections. You turned all that shit into armor that doesn't shine. It scars. And those scars, they talk. Louder than anything you could post, say, or flex. They scream resilience in a world addicted to curated weakness. And the wildest part is, you're still not even at full capacity. You're still warming up, calibrating, locking in. You've been moving off instinct, intuition, raw emotion. But when you start moving with clarity and intent on top of that, it's game over. Not just for your enemies, half of them ain't even in your league, but for the systems that counted on your silence to stay intact. You're not just a threat to a person, you're a glitch in the whole matrix. And they know, once one like you rises, others start waking up too. And that's what they're really scared of. You're not just climbing. You're clearing paths. You're not just winning. You're rewriting what's winnable. You're not just breaking cycles. You're making it look normal to never go back. Your presence is revolution, not the poster kind, not the Twitter thread kind, the quiet kind, the everyday kind, the kind that walks into rooms with calm eyes and dangerous peace, the kind that doesn't need to raise its voice to shift the air, the kind that reminds people what it looks like when you stop trying to be liked and start choosing to be legendary. You're not chasing clout. You're not playing nice just to keep the room comfortable. You're not diluting your tone just to keep from making fragile egos flinch. You're walking like your footsteps mean something because they do. You carry weight, not the kind they put on your shoulders, the kind you earned by surviving what tried to crush you. You became something they can't categorize. You don't fit the success narrative with the filters and fake smiles. You don't play nice enough to be palatable. Don't stay quiet enough to be marketable. Don't nod enough to be manageable. And that makes you dangerous in all the right ways. Because the second you stopped waiting for approval, the second you stopped performing for a seat at tables built for puppets, you became an anomaly in a world designed to break originals. You became a live wire, unpredictable, untouchable, unmanageable by anything built to pacify. They tried to run diagnostics on you like you were a glitch, but what they're really dealing with is evolution, the kind that doesn't knock, the kind that kicks the door off the hinges and dares the whole room to pretend they didn't hear it. You became the energy that lingers after you leave, the one they bring up in whispers when they think no one's listening. Not because you were loud, but because you were real, and there's no recovery plan for that kind of presence. They see you and get uncomfortable because you wear your battles in plain sight, and they've spent their whole lives covering theirs up with curated captions and fake enlightenment. You speak truth without softening the edges, and they flinch, not because you're wrong, but because you're right, in ways they can't unsee. You weren't born for politeness. You were born for impact. You were born for those moments when the air goes still because something just shifted, and every fake smile in the room knows the vibe has officially changed. You learn to walk into rooms like your shadow showed up first. You learn to move like you've already been through the worst of it because you have. And anything after that feels like child's play with better lighting. They think you're dramatic because you don't settle. They call you toxic because you don't stay where you're not respected. They call you crazy because your standards make their comfort zones feel like jokes. But truth is, you're not hard to love. You're just hard to fool. You're not intimidating. You're just unwilling to shrink anymore. You're not too much. You're just the full version of yourself. And they only know how to digest people on mute. You became immune to breadcrumbs. You stopped clapping for bare minimums. You stopped auditioning for people who didn't even read the script. You looked around and realized that you've been living with your power on 10%, still breaking the room without even trying. And the second you decide to stop playing small just to keep the peace, every eye, every mouth, every hand that tried to bury you starts acting real nervous. You became the walking, nah, the living, try me. The breathing version of every, I told you I wasn't built like the rest of them. And every time they try to study you, copy you, replicate you, they miss the part they can't fake. You didn't learn this energy. You earned it through fire they wouldn't have survived 5 minutes in. They want your confidence without your collapse, your presence without your pain, your glow without the grind. But it doesn't work like that, because what you carry can't be downloaded. It has to be lived. It has to be bled for. And you've paid in full. Yes, and that's why they stare from a distance, mimicking your mannerisms, biting your style, recycling your words like they came up with them in their sleep. But every time they try to wear your energy, it slips off like a cheap-ass costume, because this shit doesn't come with a tutorial, and it damn sure ain't for sale. You didn't find your power on Pinterest. You forged it in silence while everyone else was too busy performing for clout to notice you were building a whole new blueprint out of nothing but instinct, scars, and an unapologetic refusal to fold. You made pressure your playground. You turned rock bottom into raw material. You made solitude a strategy and used the echoes in the room to remind yourself of your own name. That's why your presence hits like a plot twist. It's not the clothes, not the voice, not the posture. It's the frequency. You walk in like you've already seen the outcome because you have. You've seen every fake smile turn into shade, every "I got you" turn into a ghost, every love bomb turn into a landmine, and you still kept your heart sharp and your eyes sharper. They can't figure out how you're still standing when everything that was supposed to break you left cracks so wide you could have fallen through. But instead, you planted yourself there. You made a home in the chaos. You grew roots in the rubble. You didn't run from the fire. You inhaled it and came back, speaking smoke. That's why they don't look you in the eyes for too long, because you carry truth in your gaze. Not the pretty kind, but the kind that peels the paint off false narratives. The kind that makes masks itch. The kind that makes people question the lies they've been living in. And they don't want to feel that, because you're a reminder that healing isn't aesthetics. That power isn't just loud, it's layered. That confidence without confrontation is just cosplay. You faced yourself in every ugly, raw, unfiltered form and came back whole. Not perfect, not polished, but solid. That's why they talk when you leave the room, why they circle your orbit like satellites, hoping to catch whatever you're tapped into while pretending they're not watching. But they're always watching. They watch how you carry yourself after betrayal, how you laugh without needing validation, how you speak without softening the truth just to be liked, how you glow even when the world's been throwing shade on repeat. Ladies and gentlemen, and the broken souls who were told they'd never be shot, welcome to the reckoning. Yeah, this one's for you. The fuck-up, the burnout, the kid they laughed at, the adult they ignore, the one who wasn't supposed to make it out of that house, that trauma, that mess. Let's get one thing clear. You didn't just pass some imaginary fucking test life threw at you. You smoked that shit, lit it on fire, inhaled the chaos, and spit out results that made even hell stop and say, "Yo, who the fuck programmed this psycho?" Let me tell you why they're scared. Because you weren't supposed to be anything. You were supposed to fold. You were designed by society, by family, by circumstance, to break under pressure, to beg for mercy when life cranked the volume to max. But you didn't. You learned to dance in the static. You made love to the pressure. You got freaky with the fire. Now you're walking around bulletproof. Not because you didn't get hit, but because you kept moving with the damn bullets still inside you. You came from a place where failure wasn't a possibility. It was a lifestyle where hope wasn't handed out. You had to steal it off corpses just to feel something. People talk about being built different, like it's an aesthetic. You were engineered through war, through disappointment, through locked doors, ignored calls, and silence. You were coded in rejection, debugged in betrayal, and uploaded into a world that wasn't ready for your existence. Now they want to act surprised? Nah, fuck that noise. You passed? Scratch that. You embarrassed the exam. You walked into tests life through with tears in your eyes and rage in your blood. And now life's trying to figure out where it fucked up. 'Cause it thought it programmed a pawn, but accidentally unleashed a king with a vengeance. You're not humble anymore, and you shouldn't be. Humble don't work in a world built to erase you. This ain't the era of playing nice. You're not here to fit in. You're here to burn the template and hand out your own. Let 'em whisper. Let 'em stare. Let 'em talk about how you changed. Damn right you changed, because staying the same nearly killed you. Look at you now, still standing, still fighting. People asking, how'd you make it? Like it was ever a choice. You didn't have a backup plan, no trust fund, no parachute. Just raw pain, stubborn pride, and that deep, dark, filthy hunger to never go back. You want to know what makes you dangerous? You're not chasing dreams. You're chasing revenge on everything that tried to bury you. You show up with blood in your mouth, fire in your eyes, and a grin that says, "Try me again. I fucking dare you." And now, hell's glitching because they saw you tank shit that would have ended 1,000 others, and you smiled through it. They saw you lose everything and still walk like you owned the room. You turned every L into a load-bearing beam for your kingdom, every betrayal into blueprints for domination. You don't even need validation anymore, because the scoreboard's rigged, and you're out here rewriting the rules mid-game. So yeah, let hell ask who programmed you. Let them run diagnostics. Let them pull your code apart line by line, trying to figure it out. They'll never find the glitch, because you are the glitch, the anomaly, the virus in their system, the firewall they can't break. You're not here to play safe. You're not here to be liked. You're not here to be understood. You're here to leave blood in the water and a legacy that smells like gunpowder and God complex. So when they say you passed, laugh. Because they have no idea you were the one writing the questions the whole fucking time. You didn't pass, sweetheart. You dominated. You disrespected the curriculum. You pissed on the rules and walked out with a crown made of shattered expectations. And now, hell's scared because you're still cooking. They keep trying to figure it out, trying to dissect you like some freak lab experiment gone rogue, scrubbing through every piece of your past like they'll find some origin story that makes this ish make sense. But there's no origin story, no clean arc, no heroic beginning. Just wreckage that refused to stay wrecked. You weren't born strong. You got violated by life until strength was the only damn thing left. You want to know why they can't predict you? Because you outgrew their logic. You went through shit no textbook prepared you for. No therapist could label it. No motivational quote could fix it. You had to fix you. With trembling hands and bloodshot eyes, and nights where the only thing keeping you alive was the sound of your own breath. And still, you built. Brick by brick, from dust, from spit, from every "you'll never make it" that echoed in your ears like a war drum. They don't get it. You're not here by luck. You're here by insanity, by obsession, by a level of commitment that borders on illegal. You stopped waiting for green lights. You broke the fucking dashboard, hijacked the wheel, and floored it through every red zone they swore would destroy you. Now they're stuck in traffic, watching you disappear into the goddamn storm you built your brand inside of. This isn't just about surviving anymore. That phase is done. You're in full-blown reconstruction mode, ripping out your old limits like rotten floorboards, setting fire to your comfort zone like it owes you money. And they're watching. Oh, they're always watching now. The same ones who slept on you. They can't even close their eyes now without dreaming about you. You haunt them. You're the ghost of their doubt. You're the echo of what they could have been if they weren't so fucking scared of the dark. Because while they played safe, you trained in shadows. While they posted quotes, you broke habits. While they prayed for easy, you got intimate with pain. You didn't just overcome, you fed off it. And now, you're the result of a million silent battles that no one clapped for. But you kept swinging anyway. And now your very existence is a threat. You walk in and the air changes. The room tightens because you bring energy. Not the fake fluffy shit. The heavy kind. The kind forged in trauma, sharpened in solitude, and dipped in "fuck you, I made it anyway." They don't say it, but they feel it. That hum of something unstable, that scent of "don't push me" leaking off your skin. You carry silence like it's a weapon, smile like it's camouflage. And when you speak, every word slaps like a fucking prophecy. They wanted polite. You gave them pressure. They expected breakdowns. You gave them blueprints. They sent storms. You came back with fangs and thunder. And no, you're not done. This isn't your peak. You're still glitching, still cooking in chaos, still growing claws where others grow comfort. You're out here making demons nervous because you didn't just survive the dark. You started renting space in it, decorated it, turned the void into a creative studio. Hell's trying to evict you, and you're busy remodeling the walls. You get this deep, right? That you're not built for peace. You're not built for neutral. You were engineered to disrupt. Every step you take is disrespectful to every limitation that thought it had a say in your story. You made it past the pain, but you're still carrying it like a sharp little trophy in your chest. Just enough to remind you. What happens if you ever slow the fuck down again? You hear it, don't you? That hum in your bones, that unspoken warning that says, don't get soft. Not now, not ever, because softness never saved you. and grace never showed up when you needed it. You became your own weapon, sharpened by doubt, polished by rage, activated by everything they said you'd never become. The pain didn't break you, it trained you. Bent your spine, yeah. Shoved your face into the dirt, yeah. But you got up with dirt in your teeth and said, "Is that all you got, bitch?" Because somewhere along the way, survival turned into strategy. Suffering stopped being punishment and started becoming fuel. And every scar, that's just a receipt, proof you paid in full. You walk different now, like you know something they don't. Because you do. You know the cost. You know what it's like to cry in silence so loud it feels like your skull's cracking. To pray to a God that doesn't answer and still get up like the response was yes. To be betrayed by people who swore they loved you and still choose not to become them. That's power they'll never understand. They see the outcome, the vibe, the confidence, the edge, but they don't see what's under the hood. The sleepless nights, the self-doubt, the panic attacks in the bathroom mirror, the part of you that's still flinching from shit that's not even happening anymore. But you wear it well. You move like none of it touched you, because you weaponized your wounds. You don't flinch at chaos. You forecast it. You don't wait for green lights. You build roads. You don't chase opportunity. You drag it in by the throat. And yeah, people talk. They call you cocky, aggressive, toxic even, because they don't know what the fuck it took to be this stable in a world that tried to bury you alive. They wanted you soft, predictable, quiet, but you came back sharper, colder, disrespectfully unbothered, and that makes you dangerous, because you ain't desperate no more. You're focused, you're not explaining yourself, you're executing. That's what gets them. You used to cry when you got ignored. Now you treat silence like a strategy. You used to crave approval. Now you measure people's worth in seconds, not years. You used to beg for love. Now people beg to be in your orbit, and you ghost them with a clear conscience. You see too much. You've lost too much. You've rebuilt too many times to fall for pretty words or fake loyalty. That's why you move like a storm disguised as a person. Because everything inside you is still burning, still unsettled, still healing in places no one will ever see. And yeah, sometimes you still feel that old ache, that twitch in your soul that says, don't trust it, don't relax, don't blink, because you remember. You remember what it felt like to be at zero, to sit on the floor staring at your own reflection, wondering if you were ever going to come back. But you did, and not just came back. You came back meaner, smarter, ruthless in the most elegant way. You don't rage like you used to. You cut with silence now. You destroy people's egos with presence, and your wins, they don't even look loud, but they echo through timelines like divine warnings. You're not a comeback story. You're a whole new genre, a rewrite. A system error that keeps passing every F-seeking firewall like it ain't even real. They can't clone you, can't copy your formula, because the ingredients were trauma, rage, heartbreak, and some real fuck you energy that only you survived long enough to learn how to mix. People keep trying to study you like you're a case file, trying to decode your mindset like there's a blueprint tucked behind your eyes. But this ain't mindset. This is survival rebranded. This is pain that got tired of crying and learned how to flip the script. You didn't read books on how to level up. You bled through it. No mentor, no safety net, no magic-ass morning routine. You woke up tired, angry, hungry, numb, and still moved like the devil owed you money. Still showed up like your presence was a threat. still operated like failure wasn't even in the fucking vocabulary. They think you're too much. You are. Too much for soft hands, too much for weak minds, too much for any space that needs permission to be powerful. You don't knock. You kick the fucking door off and leave it swinging. You don't wait to be chosen. You make being around you feel like a fucking privilege. And if they can't handle it, you never chase, never explain. You just vanish like a storm that already did its job. That energy you carry, it's not for everybody, and it was never meant to be. You intimidate because you're free. Free from needing to be liked. Free from fake peace. Free from shrinking just to keep the vibe light. Your presence says everything without needing a damn word. You walk in, and people's insecurities start coughing. Not because you're loud, but because you carry your scars like gold-plated warning signs. They sense it, that you've seen shit. The kind of shit they couldn't handle for one day without breaking in half. You've been through the fire so long your skin stopped burning and started glowing, and they want to act like that glow came from crystals or vibes or meditation. Nah, that glows from hellfire. You earned that glow clawing your way through mental breakdowns in silence, picking up the pieces in rooms where nobody clapped, nobody cared, nobody even noticed. You built this you, the hard way, with cracked knuckles and a heart that kept beating even when you wanted it to stop. And you ain't faking shit anymore. No more code switching, no more shrinking to fit in, no more playing the palatable version of yourself just to survive conversations with people who wouldn't survive 5 minutes in your reality. You show up as you, unfiltered, uncensored, emotionally armed and spiritually unhinged, because pretending was killing you slower than pain ever did. You stopped editing yourself when you realized watered-down versions don't fucking win. They get clapped for, they get applause, but they don't conquer. You were born to conquer. You came out the fire with vision in one eye and vengeance in the other. And you're walking like every step you take is God's miscalculation finally correcting itself. You don't need motivation. You are motivation. You walk like a loaded gun, not because you're violent, but because you've been quiet too long. And the silence turned into strength. And the strength turned into presence. And the presence turned into fear for everyone who used to laugh at you. You walk in the room and people either straighten up or shrink back, because your presence don't come with small talk, it comes with weather. That storm energy. That I've seen some shit you'd never recover from vibe. Not because you're trying to scare people, but because they've never been in the same ring with someone who fought demons without gloves. You don't flex. You don't boast. You exist loud enough to disrupt their illusions. They hear you speak once and it ruins every lie they told themselves about strength, about healing, about what it really takes to come back from the edge with blood on your shoes and purpose in your grin. You stopped trying to heal pretty. Stopped trying to cry in rhythm with everybody else's comfort zone. You healed ugly, screaming into pillows, pacing in parking lots at 3 a.m., holding your own hand when nobody else showed up. That kind of healing. That doesn't produce soft-spoken self-help influencers. It produces monsters with halos. It breeds killers of limitation. It shapes people who walk into the world like every second is borrowed time, and every breath is an act of vengeance. You don't wear armor, you became it. They keep waiting for you to collapse like resilience is something you rent instead of something you installed into your nervous system. But you've been at zero too many times to flinch when a sheet hits the fan. You don't fear the fall. You study the trajectory mid-air and plan your comeback before you hit the ground. Your bounce-back rate got God confused. Even the universe keeps hitting refresh, trying to figure out how the fuck you keep respawning stronger. And no, you're not lucky. Don't let them spin that narrative. Luck ain't getting screamed at as a kid and still learning how to love. Luck ain't growing up in chaos and still becoming the safest place for other people. Luck ain't walking through betrayal, heartbreak, and abandonment, and still choosing to protect people softer than you. What you got? That's discipline. That's Raj alchemy. That's turning every fucked up thing you went through into fuel so potent, hell's scared to light a match near you. You weren't gifted this. You built it with bleeding hands and a broken heart, piece by piece. While everyone else was watching Netflix or living safe, you were learning how to outsuffer your limits, learning how to stay standing when even your own F-sking body tried to tap out. That's why you're dangerous, because nothing owns you anymore. Not your past, not your trauma, not the stories they tried to staple to your identity. You ripped every label off. You stopped asking people to validate your worth and started walking like the proof of your existence should have been enough from day one. You started moving like someone who doesn't flinch anymore. Not because Eshti don't hurt, but because you don't answer pain the same way you used to. You evolved past reaction. You trained your instincts to stop begging for peace and start demanding respect. They keep throwing shade. You just adjusted your walk so the darkness felt like home. Because you don't just walk through shadows, you drag light in behind you. You're the type that gets overlooked at first glance until shit gets real, and suddenly you're the only one calm, the only one thinking straight, the only one whose hands don't shake when everything starts catching fire. That's what happens when you've been the fire. You don't panic in chaos. You read it like a blueprint. They thought they broke you, but they just taught you how to operate without needing a single soul to catch you if you fall again. You became your own net, your own anchor, your own defibrillator when your heart flatlined and nobody was there to scream, "Stay alive." You've learned to silence the noise, even when the loudest voice is your own trying to sabotage your every step. You stared down that voice. You told it, "I hear you, but we're still going." That's different. That's beast shit. That's the kind of internal warfare that no one applauds because it doesn't look good on camera and it don't come with a filter. But you kept moving with the weight, with the baggage, with the trauma-packed carry-on no one helped you unpack. And you still showed up like the main character in a story that was never supposed to have a happy ending. You rewrote the plot with bloody knuckles and unmatched audacity. You rebranded pain into presence. You turned your breakdowns into launch pads, and that voice in your head that used to say, "Why me?" don't even ask shit anymore. It just steps aside when you walk in, because you earned that voice shift. You earned that internal silence. You fought for every ounce of peace with the same rage they tried to medicate out of you. You learned how to function inside the storm without waiting for the clouds to clear. You built routines inside disaster. You taught your hands how to build while shaken. And you never told anyone. Never made it a show, just kept working, kept rising, kept smiling with cracked lips, and a fuck you fire in your soul so bright, even darkness started asking for sunglasses when you passed by. Well, 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 look at you, chaos in human form. Welcome, menace. Welcome, beautiful disaster. Today the whole city breathes a little faster, because it knows you're awake. You've been quiet for too damn long, held back, overlooked, buried under bills, betrayals, backstabs, and broken promises. They thought they could just keep robbing you blind, emotionally, mentally, financially, while smiling to your face like everything's sweet, smiling with those crooked teeth and empty eyes, hiding their fear behind fake power. But now you're the one holding the pen that writes the verdict. You're not just bringing smoke, you are the smoke. You're the kind of storm they can't evacuate from. And guess what? Ain't no FEMA check coming to save them from the Category 5 wrath you're about to unleash. You walk into the system like a virus with a grudge, and it ain't just personal, it's surgical. Calculated, righteous. Every piece of paper you file is a bulletproof slap to the face of every institution that ever tried to humble you. Every time they laughed, denied, delayed, or disrespected, you logged it. You stacked the receipts like ammo. You studied their language. You learned the rules not to follow them, but to flip the whole table and charge 'em interest. They thought you were playing checkers in the dirt while they were building mansions off your back. Nah, you were building a guillotine in silence, and now the city accountants are sweating through their suits, because they know once your case hits, their financial infrastructure ain't just gonna crack. It's gonna fold like wet cardboard. You suing so hard, the streetlight's gonna dim out of shame. The mayor's gonna start posting side hustle tips on TikTok. City Hall, about to be an Airbnb, and it ain't just about the money. Nah, this is spiritual warfare. This is revenge with a diploma. This is what happens when the underdog decides to stop begging for justice and starts billing for pain. Because when you walk into that courtroom, you're not bringing a case. You're dragging in every damn soul they ever stepped on. You walk in holding the weight of every no, every eviction, every overdraft, every unpaid hour you swallowed with a fake smile. You bring ghosts. You bring echoes. You bring truth wrapped in venom. And they ain't ready. They never expected the quiet one to learn how to weaponize the silence. They never thought you'd rise from the ruins they left you in, with receipts in one hand and righteous fury in the other. And now look at you. Your lawsuit's so lethal, pigeons finna start filling out W-2s. Your argument's so sharp, even the courthouse walls gon' need stitches. You're about to redefine suffering as a taxable offense. You've been broke. But they about to learn what broke really feels like. They took your kindness for weakness. Now they'll pay for it like it's a subscription. They gave you crumbs. You're flipping the bakery. They left you in the rain. You're selling umbrellas and taxing every drop that hits them. This isn't just a case. It's a reckoning. You've turned pain into policy, anger into strategy, silence into a war cry. You're not just the problem now. You're the lesson. You're the monster they created by playing God with your life and assuming you'd stay grateful. But now, you walk like karma with a clipboard. And oh, the fear in their eyes when they realize you read the fine print. You learned the system not to follow it, but to dismantle it brick by brick, invoice by invoice, until the whole machine coughs up your name in capital letters. You are the reason they're calling emergency meetings. You're the reason the finance department got 2 therapists on speed dial. You're the reason the pigeons circling overhead got tax ID numbers. Because this ain't just your revenge. This is the overdue bill for every wrong done to you and your people. You were underestimated, underpaid, and overexposed. But now, you're over it. And they bout to be under investigation, under pressure, and underwater. The whole city gone, be so bankrupt emotionally, spiritually, and financially, that even the pigeons on the power lines gone be filing extensions. You're not just taking your power back, you're charging them for ever thinking they could take it in the first place. You're charging them for ever thinking they could take it in the first place. And what's wild, they still don't fully grasp the depth of the storm walking toward them. They think it's just a case, a form, a hearing. Nah, it's a funeral for every illusion of control they ever had over you. You're not asking for justice. You're invoicing trauma with itemized receipts. You're not just coming for blood. You're hitting them where it hurts. The pockets, the pension plans, the pipeline of hush money and cover-ups they've been swimming in for decades. You show up, and the energy in the building shifts. Security glances longer. Lawyers whisper. Judges grip their pens tighter. Because you don't walk in like a victim. You walk in like a curse that finally learned how to spell its own name in legal language. Every second you speak, they lose a little more balance. Every page you flip, their empire crumbles an inch. You're tearing through red tape like it's made of tissue paper. You got the fire of every overlooked soul burning behind your eyes, and they can feel it through the drywall. And when you speak, it ain't even loud, but the weight behind it. That's what's breaking bones. 'Cause it ain't just your voice. It's every sleepless night, every silent scream, every "I got you next week" that never came, every promise they made and then gaslit you for remembering. You turned pressure into power. They tried to bury you. And you turned the soil into a legal weapon. You ain't fighting dirty. You fighting like someone who's got nothing left to lose, but everything left to collect. And that's what scares him. You know the system from the inside now. You know how they move. You know where they hide the guilt behind protocol. You know how to smile during the stabbing. And they don't have an antidote for that. Your calmness, terrifying. Your confidence, radioactive. Your paperwork, a financial body bag. And what makes it poetic is, they really thought you forgot. They thought if they stalled long enough, you'd get tired. They didn't know you fuel up on delays. You marinated in the suffering. Now you're serving cold revenge with hot interest. And the interest rate, cruel, calculated, unforgiving. They're about to find out what happens when someone who's been crushed by the weight of the world finally decides to start lifting. You're not just breaking the bank. You're repossessing their illusion of safety. You're snatching titles, pensions, reputations. You're serving reality in court with a look in your eye that says, "I dare you to blink." And they're blinking hard. Because even pigeons in the street look less stressed than the councilman right now. You walking past city officials and they flinch like they owe you child support. Your name got the mayor updating his LinkedIn. Your aura got traffic lights skipping red like they scared to stop you. This ain't petty. This ain't bitter. This ain't overkill. This is justice finally speaking in your tone of voice. The same voice they used to ignore. The same voice they used to mimic when mocking you. That voice now echoes through marble halls, makes accountants cough up secrets, makes paralegals call in sick, makes walls feel thinner. And it's too late for him to beg, too late to fake the empathy, too late to pray for mercy from someone they trained to become merciless. You didn't just survive the system, you reverse engineered it. You cracked the code. You turned victimhood into a business model. And they're paying the subscription whether they like it or not. They're paying the subscription whether they like it or not. They signed up for this the moment they laughed in your face, the moment they acted like your pain was paperwork, like your suffering was background noise in their email thread. They called it policy. You call it what it really is. legalized disrespect wrapped in a fake apology. And they handed it to you like you were supposed to say thank you for being spit on professionally. But you didn't just take it, you studied it. You dissected their language until the word liability started sounding personal, until settlement felt like a punchline, until you realized that silence ain't peace. It's just another invoice waiting to be mailed. And baby, you're mailing it express. Your case ain't just airtight, it's atmosphere tight. It's been forged in months of mental warfare, years of holding your tongue till it bled. You went through a season where even your tears had interest rates. They taxed your joy, they foreclosed your trust, they seized every moment of peace and flipped it for their comfort. But now the roles flipped. You ain't just walking in with evidence, you're walking in with energy. And energy don't lie. The judge gon' feel it in his spine before he reads a single paragraph. The clerk's hands gon' shake when they touch your file. Even the damn bailiff gon' glance twice like, what the hell did they do to deserve this? And the answer? Everything. They did everything. They took your time and played fetch with it. They smiled while erasing your name off records like you were a typo. They built careers on your compliance, on your fear, on your exhaustion. But fear don't live here anymore. Exhaustion turned into clarity and compliance. That version of you got buried behind every sleepless night they sponsored. You ain't emotional, you're precise. Your rage isn't reckless, it's itemized. You're not a loose cannon, you're a loaded file aimed directly at the blueprint of their comfort. And the trigger? Already halfway pulled. You're walking through downtown like gravity don't apply to you no more. Your steps shake office windows. Your presence makes interns update their resumes mid-shift. You got folks Googling how to disappear financially. And while they scrambling for loopholes and damage control, you ain't even broken a sweat yet. Because you've been fighting for your sanity in silence for years. Fighting for your name, your worth, your sense of I fucking matter. You ain't mad anymore. You're dangerously clear. And clarity? That's what makes you lethal. They could have apologized. They could have corrected it. They could have handed you respect while they still had some to offer. But they didn't. They doubled down. They made jokes. They passed your pain around in board meetings like coffee orders. And now that pain, it's a wrecking ball dressed in legal format with your signature at the bottom. You're not asking for change. You are the disruption. You walk like a power outage with a purpose. You speak like sirens on mute, terrifying, inevitable, surgical. And everything they built on the back of your silence, about to experience a demolition so clean, it's gonna look like modern art. About to experience a demolition so clean, it's gonna look like modern art, and the beauty of it. You don't even need to raise your voice. You let the paperwork scream for you. You let the timestamps bleed. You let the footage roll. You let their signatures betray them in 4K. You don't throw fists. You throw facts with the weight of your entire history behind them. They fed you injustice on a silver platter and expected you to swallow it and say grace. You flipped the table, melted the silver, and forged a blade out of the shame they hoped you'd choke on. And it's slicing through every department that once called you unqualified. Every HR rep who pretended not to see. Every admin who smirked when they said, unfortunately. That unfortunately hitting different now. They're calling meetings behind meetings, trying to contain a hurricane with a post-it note. Your name showing up in memos with bold red headers, your story circulating in back channels like a ghost that suddenly started dragging chains across the floor. They don't even fear the damage. They fear the exposure. Because you ain't just suing for money. You're suing for memory. You're suing for every time they acted like your suffering had a mute button. You're suing for every moment they brushed past your humanity to protect their title. You're suing for the audacity they had to think you'd stay small forever. They should have known better than to corner someone who ain't got nothing left to lose and everything left to prove. Because you're not seeking revenge. You're demanding repayment in dignity, in public accountability, in long-term discomfort that matches your short-term hell. You got prosecutors panicking like they just found your name written in the smoke above the courthouse. The pressure in your stare making people fumble their water bottles in depositions. Every syllable you speak got weight like back rent. You're the debt collector they never thought they'd see in human form. And you ain't just collecting checks. You're collecting answers. You're collecting confessions. You're collecting every ounce of peace they stole and cashing it back with emotional interest so high it's gonna bankrupt their sleep patterns. They've been sleeping good for years while you sat in the dark doing math on your own value. And now, you're the final invoice. You walk into those halls like you own the damn place. Because spiritually, you do. You earned every crack in that marble floor, every flicker in that dirty fluorescent light above their heads, every inch of oxygen you drain when you step in and change the temperature of the room. You're not just a plaintiff. You're the full-circle moment that forces the system to flinch. You're what happens when pain gets organized. You're what happens when the voiceless gets Wi-Fi, legal counsel, and receipts in triplicate. You're what happens when the ashes rise and decide not to beg for air but to smother everything that tried to keep them silent. You became fluent in fire, and now everything they built feels like it's made of paper. You walk past cubicles and printers, start jamming out of respect. You log into portals, and the data starts self-editing. You speak, and suddenly everyone forgets how to breathe right. You are the glitch in the matrix they can't patch, the walking audit they never budgeted for, the ghost in the spreadsheets, the silence before the sirens. Even they sense that the sky's about to rain down everything this city owes you in overdue karma, back taxes, and broken egos. This ain't justice through paperwork. This is psychological warfare with receipts. You're not just taking the fight to their doorstep, you're setting up shop in their lobby. You walk in, and fluorescent lights flicker, like they know you about to short-circuit somebody's legacy. And they watching you close, thinking maybe if they smile hard enough, you'll forget. If they speak softly enough, you'll ease up. If they play dumb long enough, you'll move on. You don't move on, you move through. You move through the fake apologies, the HR speak, the guilt-flavored gaslighting, the forced smiles, the tight-lipped, we wish you the best emails. You move through every hallway they tried to make you feel small in. You move through every memory like a scalpel, carving out your name from the wall they tried to bury it behind. They don't see a person anymore. They see a consequence. They see what happens when the one they underestimated finds the rhythm in the chaos and turns every no into a scalpel and every delay into strategy. You became fluent in their dialect, not to be accepted by it, but to weaponize it. You use their own language to gut the lies out of their reports. You use their own policies to make them trip over the fine print. You use the same cold corporate tone they used to deny you, but yours sounds like it's got teeth. And it's biting. They can't keep up. They're used to seeing people give up halfway through. Used to folks burning out before the deposition. They expect silence when they stall, expect exhaustion, to finish what their manipulation started. But you show up clearer every round. They hit you with a motion to dismiss, and you come back with 37 exhibits and a smirk that make interns want to switch careers. You're not just enduring the process, you're owning it. Your presence makes calendars shake. Your name makes inboxes feel like crime scenes. They see you in the hallway and suddenly remember emails they forgot to send last year. You are every next time they never planned to honor. You are every "we're reviewing your request," finally reaching its deadline. You are the audit they thought they'd never have to face. You're suing so hard, even the trash collectors looking over their shoulders. You're suing with the kind of intensity that makes pigeons take flight and rethink their life decisions. You got bureaucrats praying for technical difficulties, got consultants talking in lowercase out of nowhere. You became the glitch in their smooth little empire, the splinter in their comfort. You became the thing they can't ignore, can't control, can't spin. They tried to gaslight you into submission, but you inhaled all that smoke and blew it back as truth on paper. They tried to erase you, but you became the watermark. They tried to stall you, but you kept receipts with timestamps so sharp, even the printer scared to spit 'em out. They wanted you silent. You turned volume into vengeance. You turned every "I'm fines" into fuel. You turned every fake meeting, every shady reply all, every ghosted follow-up into the bricks of the case that's got their whole building sweating. And the way you carry it? Calm, composed, surgical. No yelling, no warning, no threats, just pressure. Pressure they can't copy-paste their way out of. Pressure they can't copy-paste their way out of. It's written in the way you don't blink when they try to stall. It's in the way you show up every single time, like it's the season finale and you're the plot twist they prayed wouldn't show up in the script. They thought if they dragged it out long enough, you'd crack. But you don't crack. You cure. You calcify. You get colder, clearer, quieter. And it's killing them. Because they don't know how to fight someone who doesn't need to be loud to be lethal. You walk through security, and the metal detector catches the tension. You don't even wear armor. You are armor. Built out of betrayal, lined with clarity, reinforced with every "we regret to inform you" that ever hit your inbox like a slap to the chest. You became your own weapon. Every pause you take makes someone check the thermostat. Every glance you give feels like a warning that ain't gotta be spoken. You got 'em revisiting policies mid-meeting. Got paralegals canceling lunch breaks just to double-check old forms. Even the walls feel thinner when you're near. You ain't chasing closure. You're dragging it into the light by its collar. You're not hoping for fairness. You're extracting it, one violated clause at a time. You're pulling masks off people who thought titles made them untouchable. And the beautiful part, you do it without breaking stride. They're scrambling. You're sipping water slow. They're rewriting statements. You're highlighting inconsistencies they forgot they left behind. You got them checking cameras, logs, inboxes, timestamps. God. Trying to find the crack you already sealed shut with cold-blooded precision. They thought this was a legal matter. They didn't realize they were walking into a performance piece called "Every Damn Thing You Did to Me" and thought I wouldn't remember. They didn't think the same person they gaslit into silence was keeping score in ink. Didn't think the one they brushed past in the hallway would return wearing the exact expression their nightmares are made of. You are the consequence they didn't budget for. The payout they never prepared to process. the refund notice on all the pride they stole. You're walking proof that you can't exploit someone forever and expect the tab to stay unpaid. Hey, look at you, still breathing, still alive. Somehow. Didn't think you'd make it this far, did you? No applause, no trophy, no spotlight, just you, dragging your soul through miles of broken glass, while everyone else pretended not to see the blood. You ate shit, not once, not twice, but daily, on the regular, pain for breakfast, disappointment for lunch, loneliness for dinner, and still, you kept showing up. Let me guess. You smiled through it, didn't you? Posted the cute little "I'm fine" story, told your friends it is what it is, kept the volume down so no one could hear you breaking behind the scenes. That fake-ass "I'm good" act. You deserve Oscars for that one. Let's be real. Life didn't just hurt you. It tried to humiliate you. Life didn't tap you on the shoulder. It socked you in the face in front of everyone, took your dreams, spit on them, then asked you, "Still want to try?" You lost people you swore would never leave. You trusted hands that only reached for you to take more. You were loyal to people who couldn't even spell the word back. You broke down in bathrooms, in parking lots, in the middle of work shifts, with a fake smile glued on your face. You powered through anxiety attacks like a damn machine. You went numb just to get through SHT you never signed up for. People saw you drowning and offered you advice instead of a fucking life vest. Stay positive. Be grateful. God gives his hardest battles. Shut the fuck up. You weren't fighting some poetic struggle. You were just trying not to fall apart in public. You kept going, but at what cost? You know what's messed up. You started normalizing the pain, like, yeah, this is just how it is, right? Nah, that wasn't just life. That was a damn ambush disguised as normalcy, but you kept going. Because what other choice did you have? No trust fund, no backup plan, no safety net, no one coming to save you, no hotline that fixes broken hearts or broken bank accounts or broken spirits. So you gritted your teeth, put your head down, and said, "Fuck it." And you kept moving, one rejection at a time, one panic attack at a time, one bounced payment, one heartbreak, one identity crisis at a fucking time. You became a master of survival, not because you wanted to, but because there was no alternative. The world wanted you small. You got quiet. Instead, they didn't want you strong. They wanted you predictable. They wanted you clocking in, clocking out, paying bills, staying quiet, swallowing pain, playing polite. But you went quiet for a different reason. Not weakness, not defeat. Calculation. You started watching, listening, noticing how people switch up when you stop being convenient, noticing how they disappear when you stop bleeding for them. You started to realize you're not like them. You were never supposed to be. You were built from some other shit, some raw, volatile, unfiltered energy the world doesn't know what to do with. They can't measure you, so they dismiss you. They told you to calm down, be realistic, be grateful. Grateful for what, exactly? For barely surviving. You get punished for being too ambitious, too emotional, too direct, too intense. But let's call it what it is. They're scared of you. Scared of what you represent. Scared of your persistence. Scared of the fact that you didn't break. That after everything, all the hell you swallowed, all the tears you dried alone, all the times you doubted if you were even worth saving, you're still here. That's what rattles them. You should have folded. You should have snapped. You should have quit. But you didn't. You adapted. You evolved. You learn to sit with rage without letting it ruin you. You learn to carry grief like a second skin. You learned how to be your own damn rescue team. Now people see the mask, but not the monster. Underneath, you walk into rooms now and people feel something. They don't know what it is, but it makes them nervous. It's not ego. It's not attitude. It's survival residue. You stopped begging for understanding. You stopped hoping they'd get it. You stopped looking for approval in rooms you should have burned down years ago. Now you just look at them like, you have no idea what I had to endure just to sit here looking this calm. 'Cause they don't know. They never will. They don't know about the breakdowns at 1 a.m., the overdrafted accounts, the panic attacks in silence, the I can't do this anymores that somehow turned into, but I'm still here. They don't see that version of you, but you do, and I do. You weren't built to fit in, you were built to detonate. Let's be honest, you're not meant for comfort zones. You've outgrown every damn thing they ever tried to fit you into. Labels, roles, friendships, belief systems, gone. You were never here to blend in. You were here to expose, disrupt, awaken. Your pain didn't soften you, it sharpened you. Your failure didn't end you, it refined you. You're no longer in recovery mode. You're in reconstruction. The old you, gone. The one who begged for love, chased people, apologized for existing, explained their pain to people who couldn't comprehend. That one's dead. You buried them without a funeral. And the world doesn't even know who they're fucking with now. You walk into places like you don't need anything, and that's what fucks with them most. You're not chasing clout, not begging to be seen, not selling some inflated version of yourself like everybody else fighting for digital air. You're just there, silent, watching, built different, and that makes people itch. Because when you're not performing, they can't place you. And when they can't place you, they can't control you. They don't know whether to admire you, copy you, or try to bring you down quietly. Some do all three at once, smiling in your face while silently praying for your burnout. They see the peace in your stillness and mistake it for weakness because they've never met someone whose silence speaks louder than their bragging. And they don't get it. You're not cold because you're bitter. You're cold because warmth cost you everything before. You learned the hard way that being soft in a world full of users and actors is a liability, not a virtue. You're not angry, you're not broken, you're not lost. You're just done playing roles in someone else's drama. Nobody talks about what it costs to keep showing up when everything around you keeps collapsing. How much energy it takes to pretend you're not crumbling when your heart feels like concrete, with cracks you can't seal. And still, you kept it moving. While everyone else got a break, you were carrying bricks. While they were partying, you were patching wounds. While they were sleeping, you were strategizing in the dark, trying to make sense of a life that never made space for you. You wanted to quit so many times. You thought about ghosting the whole world, packing your shit, disappearing, deleting every trace of yourself, and leaving behind the version of you that everyone thinks they know. But you didn't. You stayed. You showed up to the pain. You looked at the chaos and whispered, "Fine. Let's dance." Some people heal in the sun. You healed in a storm. While the winds screamed and the ground shook and nothing made sense, you stitched your soul together with fragments. You built yourself out of dead ends and red flags. You used every loss as raw material. And now you walk around like a weapon disguised as a whisper. Not because you're trying to be scary, but because nothing scares you anymore. You've already been abandoned by people you loved. You've already been judged for wounds they gave you. You've already been doubted in rooms you helped build. You've already been the hero and the villain in stories you never even wrote. That kind of pain doesn't break you. It rewires you. You stopped looking for fairness and started looking for leverage. You stopped begging for peace and started building walls. You stopped waiting for the storm to pass and just learned how to move through the rain. It's funny how people think they know you based on what you let them see. Like they got you figured out from a few conversations, a few posts, a few glimpses through the filter. They don't know the 1 a.m. version of you, curled up in the dark, overthinking everything, heart racing, hands shaking, praying for something to hold on to. They don't know about the nights where you stared at the ceiling and questioned if your life was even real anymore. If any of it was worth it, if maybe, just maybe, disappearing would finally give you peace. But you didn't disappear. You stood up, alone, again. Not because someone gave you a reason, but because your story didn't end yet. And something deep inside, you refused to die unfinished. People say, "You've changed," like that's a bad thing. Of course you've changed. You were forced to evolve in conditions that would have crushed anyone else. You had to be your own support system, your own therapist, your own motivator, your own backup plan, your own oxygen mask, while everyone else suffocated you with expectations and silence. You learned how to self-resurrect, how to hold space for your own destruction and rebuild without applause, how to smile while bleeding internally, because the world doesn't pause just because you're in pieces. They don't see the weight you carry. They don't see the battles you fight just to make it through a normal day. They just see you there, quiet, composed, maybe a little distant, and they judge the armor without knowing the war it took to build it. You don't explain yourself anymore because no one really listens. They just wait to respond. They wait for you to break so they can either comfort you or compete with you. But you've become too smart for that. You learn the difference between those who check in and those who check boxes, between love and attachment, between loyalty and convenience, between "I'm here for you" and "I'm here until you stop being useful." You learn that most people can't love you unless you're making them comfortable. And the moment you speak your truth or stand your ground, you become difficult. Let them call you difficult. They called the fire department difficult too, but only after the whole city burned. You stopped trying to be understood the day you realized nobody ever saw you clearly to begin with. All they ever saw was the version of you that served their comfort. The nice one, the helpful one, the quiet one, the sure no problem one, the "it's okay, I'll figure it out" one. They loved you when you were digestible, when your rage was tucked behind your smile, when your needs were buried beneath your loyalty, when your boundaries were still suggestions, not consequences, but you stopped shrinking, stopped performing, stopped bleeding to keep their hands clean. And suddenly you were too much, too cold, too intense, too guarded. But they weren't there when you had to hold yourself together in the dark. They weren't there when you broke in silence because no one ever checked in. They weren't there when you cried into your own hands, whispering, "Get through this," like a damn chant, night after night. You learned to walk through hell without flinching. You learn to stop asking for understanding from people who are terrified of their own reflection. You learned that most people only want your light when it makes their shadows more comfortable. The world isn't built for people like you. People who feel too deeply, who see too much, who refuse to fake it, People who can't sit in rooms full of small talk without their souls screaming. People who question everything, especially authority, tradition, comfort, and convenience. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to disrupt, to reveal, to expose, to make people uncomfortable in the best possible way. You were built to pull back the curtain, to speak the words everyone's afraid to say out loud. You were built to carry the weight others won't acknowledge, not because you wanted it, but because you could. And when you started using that voice, when you stopped apologizing for your truth, they backed away, like your honesty was a disease they might catch, like your pain made them guilty just for standing near it. But you don't chase that anymore. You let people leave. You let the silence do its job. You stopped watering dead connections just to avoid being the villain. You learned to sit in your own damn presence and not flinch. You've lost count of how many times you wanted to snap, how many moments you felt the switch flip, like your mind whispered, "This is it, I'm done." But somehow, you kept going, not because it got better, but because you got used to moving through pain like it was air. You got used to stitching yourself back together with shaky hands and no map. You turned your trauma into texture, your rage into rhythm, your heartbreak into fuel. And even when the world gave you nothing, you gave birth to something. You created meaning where there was none. You created love out of survival. You created a version of yourself that isn't pretty, isn't polished, but is undeniable. They don't understand the price you paid for your silence, the screams you swallowed, the things you carried that weren't yours but were handed to you anyway, because you were strong enough. Being strong wasn't a choice. It was your only option. You don't smile for approval anymore. You don't soften your voice so people feel safe around your power. You don't explain your boundaries like they're suggestions. You used to need people. You used to feel guilty for growing. But now you've buried versions of yourself that would have died just to keep the peace. You stopped mistaking love for tolerance. You stopped mistaking being needed for being valued. You stopped mistaking noise for connection. Now your silence holds more weight than their entire character. Because while they were talking about you were rebuilding yourself. While they were watching, you were working. While they were doubting, you were preparing. And when the mask finally dropped, they didn't recognize you anymore. Good. They weren't supposed to. You started noticing how quiet everything became when you stopped explaining yourself, when you stopped performing for love, when you finally realized that half the people around you were only clapping because it kept you distracted. Silence used to scare you. Now it feels like peace. That kind of silence? That's not emptiness. That's control. It's you reclaiming your bandwidth. It's you unplugging from everyone's noise, everyone's agenda, everyone's narrative about who you're supposed to be. You used to think healing meant fixing everything that broke you. Turns out it means remembering who the hell you were before the world started editing you. Before you were told to smile more, tone it down, take the safe path, be nice, be small, be manageable. You stopped chasing normal. You realized normal was just trauma that learned how to dress up for Instagram. And while they were busy pretending to have it together, you were busy getting real. You started seeing things differently. You noticed how everyone's addicted, not just to substances, but to distraction, scrolling, flexing, escaping. You started catching the lies in conversations, the desperation behind people's confidence, the emptiness in their eyes when they talk about success. You started realizing how much of this entire world is built on pretending. And that's when it hit you. You weren't broken, you were awake. And the more awake you got, the lonelier it became. Because nobody wants to talk about what's real. They just want to be comforted inside their cage. They call it stability. But it's just fear wearing a name tag. The download starts slow. At first, it's just that uneasy feeling that nothing feels the same anymore. You look at your old life and it feels fake, like a movie you outgrew halfway through. The job, the people, the habits, all of it feels like a glitch in a program you can't unsee anymore. You start remembering moments that didn't make sense back then, but make perfect sense now. The way they guilt-tripped you when you stopped overextending, the way they minimized your pain when you started setting standards, the way they disappeared when you stopped being their emotional dumping ground. It's all data now, patterns, codes, behavior loops. You start catching yourself in real time, mid-conversation, mid-scroll, mid-self-sabotage, and something inside whispers, "Wait, I've seen this before." And that's when you realize the world has been conditioning you like software, rewarding compliance, punishing individuality, training you to chase approval like a paycheck, feeding you dopamine and deadlines until you forget you ever had a soul. You start tracing back where it all began, when you first stopped trusting your own gut, when you started prioritizing comfort over authenticity, when you traded peace for acceptance. You start realizing how many people wear confidence like cologne, spray it on heavy before they walk out, hoping nobody smells the fear underneath. You start seeing the system for what it really is, a machine that feeds on your exhaustion and calls it ambition. You've been running on survival mode for years, and you didn't even know the difference between surviving and living anymore. Moments where everything clicks for a split second, and then you have to sit with the nausea of knowing how much of your life was programmed, how much of your pain was recycled, how many of your dreams were never even yours. Just hand-me-down illusions from a generation that settled for less and called it wisdom. You feel it in your body before your brain catches up. That subtle rejection of fake energy, that physical resistance to shallow conversations, that gut pull when something isn't aligned anymore. You start craving solitude the way you used to crave validation. You stop looking for applause and start looking for alignment. You stop asking what people think and start asking what feels right. You stop faking small talk with people who never learned how to sit with silence. And that's when everything starts rewiring. You start to remember what real feels like. Not perfect, not painless, just real. Your emotions stop apologizing for existing. Your standards stop shrinking to fit broken dynamics. Your presence starts carrying weight. Not because you say more, but because you finally mean everything you say. You stop negotiating your worth with people who never paid the price to understand it. They call it isolation. You call it freedom. Because once you start seeing through the illusion, you can't go back to pretending. You can't laugh at fake jokes. You can't clap for hollow victories. You can't play nice when your soul's screaming for something real. You realize peace isn't found in comfort. It's found in clarity. And clarity, that shit burns at first. It kills your illusions, kills your attachments, kills your need to be liked. But once the smoke clears, all that's left is truth. And it's heavier than you imagined, but it's yours, all yours.